Welcome back to Team Akhi, guys. It's your boy Mo Idris, and I have Ash and Neus. This is becoming the panel. This is becoming the dream team. We're having some good conversations. How you doing, brothers?
All good, can't complain.
All good, yeah.
Life good?
Life is good.
Same old
No
same.
stresses, no strains?
Not
there's
a
always
complaint.
things, but nothing to complain.
Not a complaint, man.
Good.
You gotta
good.
take the strain.
You got to take it, bro.
It's just
you gotta
life,
take
isn't it?
100%, man. So we were chopping it up earlier on. Before I do that, actually, at team_Akhi, guys, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, we're everywhere.
Like it.
We'll soon be on
Subscribe,
Spotify.
all of that.
So yeah, man, you won't be able to get away from us, man. Make sure you go like, share, subscribe, follow, hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube, so you know when the episodes are dropping, man. And just to reiterate, we spoke about this in an earlier episode. The idea of Team Akhi is not to put something out on a frequent basis, rather putting things out as seasons, man. We really want people to absorb. We really want people to, really take in what we're saying with each episode, man. There's a theme in each one, so yeah, take it in. Let us know what you think. So we were chopping it up before, and Ash, I'll let you introduce, bro. I'll let you start the topic.
Yeah, so this particular episode, we're going to be talking about influencers. And it was a thought that came into my head the other day, influencers in terms of all aspects, right? Because life these days, influencers can come from all angles. In the past, it used to be just direct contact. It could be a celebrity, someone, a film star or a movie star, someone in music, for example, you're influenced by your fashion or anything like that. Or it could be family or friends, but there was only a few medians you could be influenced. Whereas now, the internet age,
It's endless,
social
isn't it?
media,
Yeah.
anyone and everyone tries to be an influencer in some way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got kid influencers now.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I ain't heard that one before.
Bro,
Yeah.
they got them. They
Influencers.
on YouTube.
Oh man, I don't know if I feel
You've got
comfortable
these
with that,
millionaire
bro.
kids now.
I don't feel comfortable with
Kids
that.
under 10.
Yo,
These
some
like
of these kids is racking it up though.
these kids
No,
doing
they are.
toy
They
reviews
are.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mate, some of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
kids are making millions doing this. But yeah, talking about influencers, because there's so many avenues now you can be influenced through and come across a different influencer. It can really come from a lot of angles now in terms of changing your mentality or the way you think about something. It can be very quickly changed at a touch of a video.
Well, I feel like you're right about that. I feel like the world we live in now, especially, it's easy to kind of be the master of none. You get what I mean by that?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because you're influenced by too many things at the same time that's pulling you in so many directions. You don't actually focus.
I'm so guilty of that, man.
You don't focus
Like
on
at
one
this
thing.
time, at this time, because the amount of content that's
Yeah.
available out there, them 30-second reels.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
man,
it's
you
only
can
one of
30
them
seconds.
30-second reels can
It's
change
only
your
30
whole
seconds.
perspective, man.
Only 30 seconds.
What's crazy about that, and Ash will tell you this, like, so I'm not really on socials, right? But I'm
know
a
where he's
person that I'll get lost. Like, I do go on them. I've got an Insta. I've got things like that for, like, a purpose. But I don't use them on a day-to-day. I don't use them to communicate. I use them for what they are for.
Yeah.
Staring at pictures that you've posted. Don't post pictures if you don't want me to stare at them. But I'm just saying, yeah, like, so. But the funny thing is, so I'll go on Instagram and I'll see a message Ash has sent me like 4 days ago, 5 days
Sometimes it
ago, a
could
week
be
ago.
a week ago.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
man. So then I'll go, let me look at some funny reels to send him because he sent me some funny stuff. Bro, I'll be there for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. And then I'm like, this is why I don't do this. Put
Yeah.
this down. Get away from me.
Once every few months, once every few months,
He'll just get like
random
20.
time of the day, I'll just get 20 reels coming through all of a sudden, and they're just coming one after another. And I'm like, oh, Noose is
He's
having one of
online.
those.
He's online. He's having a
Yeah.
little
But
binge.
there's a real, like, I think when you're looking at it for amusement or entertainment or whatever, I think that's different because you could take that in a movie, right? The amount of information that's coming towards you and the jokes and everything, the content. I think that's a little bit different. But I think the danger comes when, because it's all algorithms, isn't it? And we were talking, I think we spoke about it in a previous episode. Where we said, there was that social dilemma movie, right? And they were talking about how this idea of people really just being absorbed in the social media to the point where the algorithms know more about you than you know.
Yeah.
Right. There's social profiles, isn't there? Right.
Yeah.
So they one of the execs on that documentary said, I think he was a Facebook exec. I might be wrong about that, but he said, don't click on anything on your homepage, that For You page, or you might like whatever it's called, right? Don't click on that because that's just gonna take you down a crazy rabbit hole. And I've personally been in it myself, right?
That's all I click on.
Yeah, we all do, innit? We all do, because it's telling you. I mean, it's learning from what you're clicking on, and if you're somebody who clicks on the wrong things, you're gonna be seeing wrong things, right? So, I've like very recently, I went into we did an episode about Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate, right? Very controversial figures, and call it what you want. I don't think we need to go into the detail about them, but once you start clicking on some of their videos and you take in,
that's all you start seeing.
And then this red pill movement, isn't it?
Again, influencers.
Yeah.
Two big influencers.
Yeah, massive.
Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they're positive or negative influences, they're very much Marmite influencers.
I'd say it's dependent. It's dependent on the mind state, because the funny thing about all these reels, and the funny thing, and it's crazy. You mentioned the word algorithm, and you are right. The more you click on, the more that becomes what you're kind of getting into, and it only delves deeper.
Yeah.
But
and it's not even their videos.
No, it's
not uploaded by them.
Because it will be like Jordan Peterson destroys feminist, and it's like, and he's saying, and he addresses that. He's like, I'm that's not me. That's somebody taking a very short clip of what I did. There's that famous interview that he did on Channel 4 News, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where he there was one point where he just made that woman speechless, but the whole point, everything that he was covering in that interview, if you watch the whole thing,
there was a lot.
Yeah, you get a completely different perspective,
100%.
and it's a danger to them, but it's also a danger to us because, again, taking some personal responsibility here. There was a period of about 2 or 3 months where I was just engrossed in red pill videos.
Okay,
right. So we've heard the term red pill movement. Have we heard the term?
I mean, it's good to expand on it anyway.
Yeah. So red pill movement is, the concept of the Matrix, where Morpheus offers him the blue pill, the red pill. Yeah. And the blue pill keeps you where you are. The red pill will wake you up, right? And it will open you up to this new idea and this
You're leaving the Matrix.
You're leaving the Matrix. So the red pill movement, I feel, is been taken over by largely men, but also these women influencers who are talking about the negative and toxic traits of women, right? And honestly, you can't help but be affected by it. You start going down this rabbit hole and you're thinking to yourself...
Wait, women influencers being critical of women?
Yeah.
So I'll give you one very quick example of this, right? So the idea of a traditional woman, the view of the red pill movement, and this is men and women that say this, is... the West has really infected the minds of women to the point where they don't want to be a traditional woman anymore. They don't want to be a stay-at-home mother raising a family. They don't want to do all of that. They all want to have careers. They all want to work. And their view is, you get to the age of 40, you realize a lot of the people you came up with are married with kids or whatever, and you're sitting there with your career in your hand. That's all you have, and it starts to get very lonely at that point. So that's just one of the themes that the red pill movement puts out. But it really, that did, I wouldn't say it, changed my views or whatever. No, but for that few months where I was watching those videos, I started thinking to myself, right, this is a red flag, that's a red flag. And I started really building some kind of animosity towards these type of women. Do you know what I mean? And and it's the wrong thing to do, because 100%. When you're young, you're naive, you're influenced by, and everything manifests itself every day for you because you're just constantly absorbing information. As you get older, you get more wise, and life teaches you, right? If you don't learn yourself, life's definitely going to teach you. So that's why I find that movement really difficult to really justify. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of this. And I think it goes back to those influence. You get the right person with the right tone of voice, with good articulation, sitting in front of mic on a 30-second reel, they can convince you of a lot. Do you know what I mean?
And that's why I'm dangerous. No, I'm joking.
No, but the funny thing is this. It's also
that's going in the promo bit.
It's also how you do. It's also how you put. How would I put it? It's also how you take the information, though. Because I think we as people and the audience, so to speak, are guilty of, you watch that 30-second reel. If you were smart, you're supposed to watch the rest of the video.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because then you would get more of the context. But a lot of us, and like I said, this is the problem I find now, especially with the younger age, is no one has time to watch the longer video.
Well, there's
You
this
see what I
idea
mean?
of
It's like,
that's the
it's
whole
like
thing.
oh my God, they've given me the information. Why would I watch the rest of it? It's almost like books. Do you remember what they used to say? You put something in a book, only the smart people gonna find it out. Everybody
Yeah.
else ain't gonna bother because they don't read books or they
Yeah.
ain't interested.
But this
So-
is them. There was this study done about attention span. So when we were in school, we're all roughly the same age, right? When we were in school, the common knowledge told you that most human beings had a 20-minute attention span, right? And that was commonly known 90s and probably pre that, right? Fast forward to today, there was a study done, one of the largest studies in observation of the use of social media, and they said attention spans actually for the average human being online has gone down to 9 seconds. A fish has 12 seconds.
Wow. Thank God.
You know what? Going
That's
back-
mad, isn't it?
That's ridiculous. But it also goes back to what we talked about in the other episode. We talked about on a previous episode about, I'm sure I discussed this, where we were talking about how just people just lack patience now.
Yeah.
We talked about it,
And that's a
actually
big part
pretty
of it,
much
isn't
through
it?
every episode with work,
Yeah,
with whatever. People just lack patience, like with relationships, things like that. People aren't interested in having the longer conversation. It's about it is that. That's the fact.
Instant gratification.
And I'm making a decision on it. And Neus hit a key point. He used a word that I absolutely love when he talked about the reels. He said, when you look at the information, he used the right word, information. Most people look at this stuff, not most, but there's a vast society of people who look at everything on social media as fact. Get all their news.
Oh man, I've had people in my office telling me stuff. I'm looking at them like, dude, you know you don't even know what you're talking about right now. You just watch some video and
I'd see
hear
articles.
you just hear telling us the same thing dude told you in the video. But for somebody who knows what you're talking about, you ain't even telling us the right story. So how are you here pushing this information out based on a video you watch?
Yeah.
You don't
I
even
find
know
that in
if it's
football as well,
facts.
right? A lot of people repeat what they hear on Match of the Day.
Yeah, oh yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Or
They
even
don't really have any substance to their knowledge, right?
or
absolutely.
what they hear from people they discuss with.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about this in the last one, I think, where we kind of touched up on the fact that people, it's easy to get the information from someone else rather than go and seek it yourself.
Yeah. 100%.
And obviously as human beings, like I said again, it's up to you as the person to decide what information you're taking, keeping, whatever. Most people nowadays don't do that. They just literally, like you said, take it as, oh man, Taz knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's right. I'm gonna go tell everybody else what he said.
Just because it might have sounded clever, right?
But I'm gonna make it sound like I said it because I liked how it sounded, and it's
Exactly.
gonna make me sound smart like he did.
Yeah.
And I like to,
100%.
when it comes up to conversations and things like that come up, like you remember something someone told you and you think, this is the right moment to share it. And I can look like, not look like, but I can share that information as my information. For example, those types of people, I don't understand it because we talked about mentors and coaches in the previous episode, right? I'm always quick to reference where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like I'll go, my friend Neus told me like 2 years ago about this and this is what changed it for me and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
As my friend, Neus said, duh.
Yeah.
Like I'll quote a reference or I'll quote something because it's the whole thing of like the ripple effect, the influence.
Yeah.
It's directly influenced.
Yeah,
We're influencers to each other.
100%.
We're influenced by each other. And that's what I mean. Like we come from an old school generation where we're influenced. We understand the power of direct influences.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with the right people, as they always say. We grew up maybe surrounding ourselves sometimes with the wrong people. But
Maybe.
we've come to an understanding.
I definitely did.
Yeah.
No. But you as you put it, it's your experience though. We had a direct engagement experience, whereas now, like I was even talking to my kid the other day, video games, for instance. when I was a kid, man, video games, you gotta come
golden age.
You gotta come to my house and prove that you can beat me at that game, bro. We gonna be here all day. Mama gonna make some juice. We gonna be sat here playing whatever it is, Mario
Street
Kart, whatever
Fighter,
it is,
Stupid
Street Fighter,
Nintendo,
whatever.
8 people in a room, winner stays on,
and
people
then,
yelling behind
Beef.
you.
and we
Like,
go
it was-
and we go into school tomorrow.
Yeah, bro.
Told you I whooped everybody up here. You know what I mean? But it was such a social thing, and it's weird because nowadays, you know, I was talking to my kid, and he goes, "Oh, but it's still social. I talk to my friends online," and I said, "Yeah, but that's not the same." I said it's socially antisocial because you're playing with someone who's not in your room with you. You're playing with someone who might not even be your actual friend.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? Like someone you don't even really know.
Yeah.
You're playing with these people online. How can you be social?
Yeah.
When you
I
go,
see my
when
nephew.
You,
My
when you,
nephew's
when you
like-
go back to when you go back to school. Oh yeah, I beat a guy 14-0.
Who?
Who? Who did you beat? We didn't see it.
I was
What's
literally
going on?
talking about it
You know what I
today
mean?
to
There's no real.
It'll be like John _X97. That's what I beat, bro.
but there's nothing to go further with that. You know what I mean? It's like plugging into a matrix. They do it.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
log
yeah.
on for however long.
Yeah.
I love it.
They're stuck in this world doing whatever they're doing without not really knowing what they're doing.
It was a real problem on Fortnite. I remember I went to a Jummah, right? And somebody came up to do the Friday sermon, and he doesn't typically do the Friday sermons, but you can tell he was a little bit more savvy, a little bit more streetwise, and understood the social issues of this country a little bit more. So he came on and he was like, this is when Fortnite first blew up, right? It was like the first 3 months or something like that. And there was a real problem of predators and pedophiles logging onto these open sessions, right?
Yeah, 'cause it's an open map.
Befriending kids, and you know, then and there was like, and I don't think it was a like a general consensus. I think there was like exceptions to it where some kids found themselves in a really nasty situation, right? And that's the danger, isn't it? You don't know the guy because they're not sitting next to you, like you say. It's just online.
But even
Absolutely
but even for you as a person, man, like I remember going to, let's say I went to Ash's house, and you at Ash's house. Ash been talking trash. He the man at NBA Jam or something. He done whooped you. He's still talking trash. All right, cool, bet. It's my turn. You know, it was the joy of doing that. Like, I just see kids, like, bro, I'll walk in the house and I'm like, you've come to my house and where are the kids? It sound like there's nobody in the house.
Yeah.
They just...
He'll be like, the kids are all out. He'll be like,
man, they're
on the
upstairs.
games.
They're on the game. Like, don't get me wrong. They talk, they interact, but a lot of the time it's very quiet, and that's why I said it's very socially antisocial, because it's like me and you being in the same room, but we ain't talking to each other. We just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
as much as we're being social by playing with each other, we're not actually being social, because I can't tell you. Sorry, my bad. I can't tell you my name. I can't tell you who I be at, where I be at, in case you somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
such
100%.
it's such a weird, unless you're
It is,
actually
you know,
messing
like,
with your actual friends. You know
I
what I mean?
went to street I grew up on in this town. My auntie still lives there, right? So every so often I go down and see her, and I'm always telling my kids, man, when we were home from school, 4:00, boom, we were all out, and the street
100%.
was just heavy with kids,
Jumping,
up
everybody's
and down
out.
everywhere, right? And those experiences built lifelong friendships. Like every single one of those people, I see him like family. Even if I don't speak to him for 10 years and I see him again, it's just completely normal because you build a deeply rooted friendship with that person. I go down there now, it don't matter. And she's lived there since late 80s, I think it was, early 90s. I think it's early 90s. But so we moved away from there, I think it was 96. So since 96 till now, I've been down there and it's just declined and declined and declined. And now, no matter what time of day or night you go, there's no kids playing out. And more time, they're just going to be inside playing video games, man. But to go back to the point of influencers, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a good segue because you touched on something earlier, Ash, where you said, it could be your family or friends or whatever. And I talk to my cousin quite a lot. We've got a real toxic trait, right, of complaining about the younger generation, the older generation, the gaps and all of that, right? It's not the right thing to do, but I think it's important to understand where the flaws are and where you can do better. So we touch on that stuff a lot. And one of the things that I certainly see in my community is, you know, those. So I'm in my immediate family. I'm first generation British Pakistani, but in my wider family, I'm probably more like second or third generation, right? And a lot of the elders that were from the village that I'm from came over here in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, and they were all working up in a warehouse in Birmingham in Small Heath, right? Those were the men that raised us and raised this family. Like we weren't, when we were kids, there was a real level of discipline. So when you go see visitors, you don't run around like a psycho. You sit in the room next to your parents and you don't mess around, like especially when you're at like the elders' houses. If it was your first cousin and you know your aunties, that was different. You were going manic, playing in the garden or whatever, right? But there was certain individuals in our family who we learned how to have absolute respect for, right? And then it was the case of the village raises you. We touched on this yesterday, I think. Like it didn't matter if your uncle disciplined you, your auntie, your parents, whoever. You know, it was seen as we're all raising these children together. And if you went to your parents and said, "Oh, so and so just slapped me" or whatever, right? Whether that's politically correct or not, that used to happen. It you know, you would go to your parents and they'll be like, "Well, what do you do?" You know, it's the point I'm making is there was a heavy theme of discipline and understanding your place in this hierarchy of this community, and then with that comes you know, the traditional homes and the traditional community and having a place of worship, having a place of congregation, having a place of socials and how weddings were done and how parties were done, and you know there was and how you treat each other. It just felt completely different. Fast forward to today. It just doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like the kids. It's not, is it?
Because when part of the thing of my thought process around that, as you're talking about it, and I've thought about this in the past, is that our influences were our parents, and our aunts and our uncles because we grew up around that. Like family was a tight knit thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
So, you know, family were big part of our influences, but also now.
Wider family as well,
and wider family. Yeah,
I'd say that is really, you know. Sorry to interrupt, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
But I would say that is really part of the big picture because, funny enough, I was even talking about this with my mom the other day, and you know, one of the things that we did when we was kids, or one of the things I remember when we was kids living in Nigeria, is we always had one of our relatives with us. There just always seemed to be an uncle, an auntie, somebody just live with you that. They just there. They just chilling. Like it's not, and there's nothing wrong with that. They was part of the family.
That was normal, yeah.
They
Same
was
with
just
us
there.
as well. By
and
the
then
way.
and then uncle would leave, and a week later, there's auntie here now. Like, oh, okay, cool. People are just here, you know. And I think having the wider family was really what made it work because you could go to work and know that people that you trust, people that you know, people that have the same values as you, people that have the same interest as you, people that would have interest in your kids. Would be around them and be able to influence them in the right way. Whereas nowadays we live in a world where if you don't have a big family or if you don't actually get on with your big family, then in reality, 9 times out of 10, it tends to be individual little households by themselves. You know what I mean? And what that tends to do is it breaks that up because if mom and dad are both working, then who's really watching out for your kids? Who's really doing all of the things?
But it's definitely a cultural thing, isn't it? Because when I travel back to Pakistan, you've still got that heavy family, community orientated discipline, you know, honor, all of that sort of stuff, right?
Wait, but why?
And I don't know. I put it down to culture, right? The environment breeds that, and it's something that's gone.
Time. Remember, man, everything changes, everything grows. Think about Milton Keynes. Think about anywhere you've been in life. Everything changes, everything grows. When I first came here, this was like going back in time in comparison to where I'd come from. Do you get what I mean? Like everything's a bit more quieter, slow pace. I like this place. I could mingle. I could make it work here. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't.
Fast forward to today. I mean, don't get me wrong. I personally would say not a lot has changed in terms of the bigger picture, but as far as like everything else, yeah. As far as culture, as far as like the things that have come to Milton Keynes, the things that are happening in Milton Keynes, things are now progressing. Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And that's what happens and the reason why I say this is obviously we're talking about the westernized world. Yeah. Come back to Nige. Don't get me wrong. We have the ideals of the westernized world, but we still live in
The
I
culture.
would probably say
Yeah.
no, but I'd probably still say if you really wanted to, we probably live in still the early 2000s, bro. As far as the way we live.
Compared to the West.
Yeah.
That was a good time, by the way.
No,
That was-
it's
it was an incredible
bro,
time.
but guess what? That's why when you go back to PK, that's why when you go back to Nige, you'd still have a great time because it reminds you of a time that you can't
But I
or
see
you
it
don't
differently.
have here.
News, I see it differently, right? I think culture is something that's existed, right, for millennia, and some things are embedded. You can take the boy out of a village in Pakistan, but you can't take the village out of the boy. Like we still do things to this day. The way I eat, the way I interact with my family, there's certain things that we do in this house. Like if there was a pure white English family living in this house, it would be a completely different environment to how it is that we're living in here, right? We might have things around the house or do things around the house that people wouldn't do that are very
100%.
distinct to our culture,
Now,
right?
But bear with me, 100%. All right, so you've just painted that picture. That's brilliant. Now fast forward 20 to 50 years when it's your kids, not you.
I think it's about preservation, though, News.
But my point is this: being in a situation where you're in a different place can sometimes make you move away from what you're. We've had this conversation
100%,
as well.
100%.
Can make you move away from what you're familiar with, what your traditional values were, because as a kid you rebel against what you see or whatever the situation may be. But my point anyway that I was trying to make was you get to a point where you realize that it's time, bro. Don't get me wrong, tradition is a very big thing, but if you give those places time, they will move on from the way they are now. They may not move far away from it, but they would move on. Do you get what I mean?
And I agree with that. I guess the underlying reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is because I have a problem with that.
With what?
Which is just the trajectory of change, and you
Where
know,
we're
like if I go
headed.
back to my conversations with my cousin, right? It's you know, where are the real men gone? You know, where are the influences? Where are the people that keep the community together? Where are the people that when there's conflict and issues within the family, who resolves it?
In your culture or the world?
In our culture, right? Because I'm talking to my cousin and we're talking about our family, and I've got a massive family, right? Humongous family. And if you marry into the family, you're a part of the family. It's like that, right? So you know, and the thing that I always come back to is all of these great influences that we had coming up, all of these great figures that we had that taught us right from wrong and taught us how to be a man and taught us how to, you know, navigate through life. A lot of that came from a place of wisdom and knowledge that was preserved by culture. So whether you go to anywhere in Africa, whether you go anywhere in the subcontinent, whether you go anywhere in South America, you're gonna still see kind of this resemblance of a culture that's just existed throughout time. It didn't matter whether you were talking about the Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Mongolian Empire. Culture preserved itself, and societies preserved themselves in the way that they preserved themselves. And I just feel like we're in a time now where a lot of that responsibility is taken away, and a lot of the care and the empathy is taken away. Does that make sense? Or what I mean by that is, because that culture doesn't exist anymore, because people don't think about elders and people kind of just, you know, live a very independent existence now, a lot of those things don't exist anymore.
Independent existence. Literally what I was trying to get into is, you know, people are living in smaller units. So it's more independent. But a bigger thing as well is, I would also say is, what was I going to say? A bigger thing would be not just the independency of how people are living, but it's also the mindset. You know, we live in a world where, as you were saying, where are the real men gone? Where is all of this? Life is easier than it was before. We have access to everything on our doorstep now. There are no influences to teach you how to work hard, because you can literally pick up your phone and order Deliveroo to your door. No one's teaching you how to go out and fish and you know, do certain things. I'm not saying that
You're saying
those
life's
things are
more convenient.
essential.
It's not easier. Life back then was easier. Life for our parents was easier. To buy property, to do that kind of stuff, the property prices, things like that. It was easier to be independent back then. Now you have to have dual income to buy a house. You have to have a certain earning to get approved. Not to interject in what you're saying, but that's just my thought process around it.
If that's what you mean by a life, though, I'm just talking about your general living.
You were saying about independence, like
no. But I'm just saying no. But I'm just saying no. When I said independence, I'm talking about people being independent in the sense of there's no bigger unit anymore. I think having the bigger unit, having the bigger family, that's where I feel like, and I've had this conversation with you in regards to our cultures. And I've said this to you, especially with what I would say African culture is. I find with African culture, sometimes, this is my opinion, we tend to get individualized. Whereas I find more with your culture, you guys tend to keep together a little bit more. And I think having that bigger, wider background, having that village that raises your family, and gives you those influences, those key influences that are your parents, that are your aunties, your uncles, not just people now watching YouTube and thinking this guy on YouTube is my influencer because this is what I dream to be like. I want to have those cars and treat people like this and talk to someone like that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
So I would say, man, look, I think it's time. I think everything does progress. Obviously, when you look at the books that we read in regards to religion, they all point to this sort of situation where we're all living in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I came up. I feel like I'm going off topic with this, so I apologize. But I came up always being told, right? There's a heavy theme of signs before the end of time, right? So whether you believe it or don't or whatever, right? So as Muslims, we believe that there's going to be end of times and there are critical signs that happen. And one of the things that always stuck out with me is like the destabilization of society as a whole, right? So, and it's, or civilization, should I say. And although I don't think we're anywhere close to that type of thing. The world is a crazy place right now. But socially, we are in some real web of issues now. Do you know what I mean? And this is where I feel like somebody like my father,
because we're not being social.
Well,
in my opinion,
maybe in the West. I'm talking as a whole, right? So my father was very much a family orientated man. He saw opportunities to keep family together, to resolve conflict, to do all of these great things. And I feel like the last 5-10 years of his life, he started to feel a little bit alienated because his influence didn't stand anymore, because people become more independent and they don't want you to get involved and they don't want you to, they know better.
The younger ones or?
Younger ones, yeah.
So the younger
even some
line,
of his
like
peers.
the young line
Yeah.
overtaking.
But and you are right. That is the funny thing about it. Like I said, we don't have, or we're not able to listen to those key figures anymore because there's so much other information. There's so much other distractions. There's so much other. Why do I have to listen to Ash for 2 hours when I can literally just Google it?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I've taken the shortcut. So when I said easier, don't get me wrong. There's definitely the word easier is not a great word to use in that spectrum because obviously
I think it is. I think it's convenience. It feels like
convenience is what I feel
easier.
like. Life
Easier
is more convenient.
isn't the best word because you would have to compare everything across the board and that would be hard. But I would definitely say yes. The convenience of life, the convenience of technology, the convenience of everything that we have, developed ourselves and grown into has caused that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what? You touch on a thing where you said about convenience. We have the technology, so everything's at a touch of a button, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can order anything. You don't have to speak to people. You can just, I want an Uber, I want this, I want that. It's touch of a button for everything. And what I was talking to someone, we were talking to someone the other day. I was talking to a shopkeeper, I think it was. And I was with a few people, some friends. I can't remember who I was with, but I was talking to a shopkeeper. And then we went somewhere else, and I think we went to eat somewhere, and I started speaking to the waitress. I did. The waiter who came over and the waitress, I started chatting to them. I was with my family, with my siblings. And one of my siblings went, Ash reminds me of Dad. He loves to talk to everyone. Like, he loves to talk to everyone. And in my head, I loved that.
Yeah.
In my head, the moment they said that, I had a chuckle about it. And I was like, of course. I'll take that with pride. I love doing that because.
But that was something you've obviously seen your dad do that you respected, you liked.
Clearly.
You And I get that.
And this
100%.
goes back to being an influencer. My dad was my biggest influencer.
Same.
My siblings, my friends, we've talked about this, right? Our fathers being big influencers to us. And everything, all the steps I used to take in my life, every step I used to take in my life was to make just my mum and dad proud because they were my influencers. I wanted their credit. I didn't want likes on social media. I didn't care about any of that. I wanted my parents to like everything I did. I want my parents to give me gratification for the choices I'm making and the decisions I'm making. And really, it's not till in the last few years that my dad has started to recognize that I am becoming that correct mentality and I am making the right decisions. And, you know, there was a time where when I went to get my property, for example, when I went to move into my place, apparently, you know, my mum shared this with me that my dad was hesitant. My dad was like, he's going to mess this up because I had. Up until then, I was the young guy who didn't listen to the influencer. The influencer would give me advice. The influencer would tell me what to look out for. No, don't worry. You don't know what I'm doing now. You don't know what it's like now. It's different now, Dad. It's different. And I wouldn't listen. And I'd continue on that path. And it wasn't till, and I think I've mentioned this before, where I had to literally rebuild my life. I literally spent, I don't know if we've talked about this, where I spent we did. First time I was on. And that was that key turning point of, and I mentioned it, everything my father told me growing up was true. You have this epiphany of, he told me this and he told me that and X, Y, Z. So now, not only do I listen to anything he gives me a minute to tell me, because, you know, life is precious, and taking any information you can get from anyone around you that you really respect and you see as people you could be influenced with in the right way. But at the same time, for me, I have this, like, similar to yourself, we've talked about this, we've got like this encyclopedia in our head of all these things our dads used to do and say, and the way he used to approach situations and all the positive things that we used to, as kids, look at and go, wow, like my dad's amazing. Like, even at an older age, I remember watching him for the first time buy a car. You know, my dad had bought cars before, but this was the first time I was in the dealership with him, watching him negotiate and just seeing him in a completely different angle, a different light, a different approach. And it was huge lessons I was learning there of how to approach situations and gain respect in the way you're talking to someone and communicating with someone, and the power of approaching something the right way. And, you know, let's talk about complaining, right? For example, something goes wrong in a restaurant, your food's rubbish. Some people can turn around and, you know, throw a massive hissy fit. I want this taken off my bill. I can't believe it's ridiculous. And they can make a big deal about it. Or something goes wrong where it's a bigger issue, something that costs a lot of money, and they'll go in, I don't expect this to go wrong when I spend this much money and rah, rah, rah. However, if you have that shift from watching him through the years of how he approached those situations, I use his approach and I always gain what I was looking for, or more so, because I've approached it with calm, collected facts and information, and understanding that the person I'm speaking to isn't the person who, for example, my phone goes wrong. You didn't build my phone. Why am I shouting at you? Because you're the rep of the company that I bought the phone from. What? But again, we're influenced by this. Like, there are people who are influenced by watching videos of people rage out in complaints. There are people who are influenced by watching these funny people of Karens, these videos of Karens raging out at stuff.
You know, can I just say, I hate that term.
Karen.
I hate that term. I get it. I've met a few, but I hate that term.
But stigmaing a name for a type of individual
I hate
is ridiculous. But I agree 100%. With you on that. But yeah, for me, just there's a whole culture of people who love watching rage videos. The same way there are people who are influenced, and that's really what I was trying to get to in terms of the topic of what we're talking about with the power of the internet and being influenced by things you see. Before, if you were if there are people out there who are real dark-minded individuals, there are. And back then, they didn't have the avenues to connect with other people, because you have no idea. If I come to you face to face, I go,
you don't know who.
Hey, are you into Satanism or something like that? Say something really dark at them. They can be like, What are you
Alarm,
talking about?
alarm, everybody,
Yeah, hey,
this guy's
everyone, did you
bugging
hear what
out.
this guy just
This guy's
said?
bugging out.
He just said he wants to kill someone. Like, he wants us to. Do you know what I mean? There's that. But now with the power of the internet, you can find a community very quickly for anything.
Yeah.
You can find a belonging through exactly what you said,
and-
clicking on the right things, following the right
and
people,
something you
commenting on
said-
the right stuff. And all of a sudden, all these darker interests
Yeah.
show up in your social media. And it's just...
And something you said that touched base with me was, and it was based on what you said, Taz. Basically, having your dad get to the point where he's feeling like his influence isn't taking hold anymore because people don't need his acceptance. They've got other people's acceptance.
Bro.
They've got
That's
other
powerful.
situations that
That is
I don't,
powerful.
I don't need this person.
I never
anymore.
looked at it like
Do you
that.
get what I mean?
That's mad.
Everybody else says it's okay, so I can
Yeah,
be like
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me what's right and wrong anymore because everybody else is telling me what I'm saying or what I'm thinking is right and wrong. That's why I said it's social, but we're not social because we're not actually really being this whole westernized world of social media. You're watching. It's like watching Big Brother people sleeping. You're not really watching what's going on. You're watching everybody sleeping because the information that's coming to you isn't information direct from Ash. I'm getting information that came from Ash that Taz edited, that this dude made fast forwarded, that guy sped up, turned it backwards. You know what I mean? Like by the time I get it, it's not even the right information.
The context
The
is
context
just gone.
is way out of course. You know what I mean? But because I'm happy with the fact that somebody feels the same way I feel, I don't need to justify it.
Bro, you've blown my mind, honestly, because that's put so much into perspective for me, man. When I look at, because that was, remember in the first episode I spoke about, if a man has purpose and there's gratitude surrounded around that purpose, then he will be good.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah. I think that's really what took its toll on my father towards the end of his life because, when a charitable and generous and giving man like that no longer has people to help because of their stubbornness or their kind of negligence or individuality, whatever you want to call it, he loses his purpose. And I said to somebody, my father was born for the time that he was needed in, and I think that's the same for all of us. We're all a part of a bigger purpose, right? But without getting too philosophical, but had he been born today, would he have had the impact that he had? Probably not. Because it is more convenient. You can get what you want. He came up in a time where a lot of the family was trying to come over to the UK. They didn't know how to go through the immigration process. They didn't know how to come here and get their house and how do I get a job? And he facilitated that for hundreds of people.
But what is that? And if you think about it in a culture sense of point of view,
Yeah.
that was how we grew up.
Yeah.
Your granddaddy grew up. He pulled his people up.
Yeah.
We all are now here. Then
Yeah.
the next person migrates or levels up, gets that great job or does something else, and you're pulling your people with you. You know what I mean? And you tend to rely on your people because of that. And they tend to be your main influences because of that. And like I said, once you get to this, and it's funny because it's such a westernized thing where we are now all individualized because we can find gratification elsewhere. I don't need to live up to mom and dad's expectations.
And there was this concept, right, amongst a lot of my there was this group of brothers, 6 or 7 brothers it was, and they were kind of my great uncles, and there was this concept among them which was, once you've allowed something, they would call it a sin, right? Once you've allowed a sin to occur and you've accepted it and you've okayed it, you've made it okay for other people to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were always strict in their rulings. There was no book, there was no book that you could get, and this is how you live in Taz's family. It was more, you grew up learning what your boundaries are, and learning how to speak to people, and learning what you can and can't do. There was a time in my life where I thought I could never marry outside of my caste. I could never marry a white girl or a black girl or an Arab girl, anything like that. I'm Hanafi. I'm from a Hanafi family. That's one of the major schools of thought in Islam, right? And even that, I couldn't marry a Shafi or a Maliki or a Hanbali. It'd have to be a Hanafi. It'd have to be a Pakistani, and she'd have to be speaking my language and all of that. And ironically, that is actually who I ended up marrying, somebody who's very similar to our family, right? But
but none of those things were what they were. So
The
to
first
speak.
person who said, so it was one of my uncles who married an Indian woman, right? And that was like,
Wow.
you know, the ending of EastEnders, you get the doom, 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 doom. It was like that.
Everyone's
I
like,
swear down.
what?
And it was just absolutely.
What just happened?
I swear down. It was the
Must-see
talk
TV.
of the town. Like everybody in
Must-see
Pakistan knew
TV.
about it. Everybody in the UK knew about it. It was just absolutely crazy. I swear down. And then a few years later, there was one of my uncles. He was married to from within the family to a girl from Pakistan, and then she came over. They didn't get on, and then he ended up marrying outside of the family. Another. It was just, but the more it happened, the more it became socially acceptable. And we were talking about before this. Remember, I said I wanted to talk about rights and things like that. Just to touch on that very quickly, if the women tried to do that in the community, bro,
I've seen it.
It would have definitely been doof, doof, doof,
yeah,
doof, doof,
no,
doof.
and that would have been punches,
And then
bro.
it
I'm
Yeah, I was
telling
about
you,
to say,
like,
that
it
would
wouldn't
be
have
the
been
sound,
sound.
and it's sad to say that. But
Yeah,
that's
it is
just-
sad to say that,
it's-
and like there is this whole dark part of the culture and the history that we don't tend not to talk about because you know you dishonoring those people, whatever. But no, I think you have to acknowledge it because behavior breeds behavior, and I think that I want to just summarize what you're saying around you know the influences and it's all about modeling behavior. You know, it's all about modeling behavior. If I grew up in an environment where women didn't have the same freedoms as men in terms of who they wanted to marry and what choices they wanted to make in their personal lives, then that's what I'm going to assume
how
is
you're gonna
right.
be, yeah.
And I'm going to raise my daughters like that. Luckily, I grew up in the West. Here it's
a
you
bit more wider.
use the term in the last words, a melting pot of culture and just you know individuality and ideologies, and there's just so much going on here. You start to understand what's right and what's wrong by just observing the world. And you know I think that's, as much as I had so much respect for those men, there's a lot that they could have learned from the younger generation had they listened. You know what I mean? And understanding that if you're a religious person, well, Islam doesn't put these restrictions on us. Why do we as people put these restrictions on ourselves? You know what I mean? And they always used to say it's all in the name of preserving the family, keeping the link strong, keeping the bond strong.
And to a degree,
but you keep marrying in the family, you're gonna have some deformed kids, man. And that's just a scientific fact,
no,
isn't it?
but the idea of it, and I get it. The idea of it is obviously, look, if we keep everything within, then the culture stays stronger. The culture lasts forever. And don't get me wrong, that is a good thing. And we've touched up on this, especially. I've had a conversation with you about this, Ted. But it's one of those things where I feel like it's the individual's thing. You've got to pass your own culture down in the way you take the good and the bad. You might see some bad and go, I don't want to pass that down to the next generation. But the good stuff, this is what you guys need to know. And like you said, it's setting the boundaries for people. I think we live in a world where there are no boundaries anymore. You know, you can't put your hands on kids. So, you know, not saying that was right or wrong, but there are no boundaries anymore. You can't teach people boundaries anymore because the minute you do it, there's a problem. Why did you do that? And therefore, without boundaries, then how can you expect anyone to now, you know, a lot of the time it's weird. We live in and I'm not, like I said, I'm not justifying people hitting their kids or anything like that, but we live in a world where when we were kids, that happened to us.
Oh man, I got
and it taught you boundaries.
Yeah.
It taught you your bound. Like you said, you knew, okay, man, we don't go to that part of the house. Or when uncle's talking, you look down and just act like you ain't looking at nobody. You know what I mean? Whatever the situation is, I'm at auntie's house, I better sit in the chair, and if she offered me food, I better say yes, please, thank you, and finish that. You know what I mean? Like whatever the situation was, you knew what it was. But it was because boundaries were set. Because don't get it twisted, the day you didn't do that thing, and mom didn't say nothing, but then when you got home and she G-checked you on it, you would never do it again.
Never do it again.
And that's the thing.
The rolling pin came out.
And the funny thing is, that's human nature. Human nature is
Yeah.
to test boundaries.
Yeah.
The same way it's in nature as a whole.
Animals do it.
Yeah, I was
So,
just
for
about to say
instance,
that.
You know,
It's
you'd
in
see
nature.
a dog pushing his luck with his mama, and his mama will give him a little nip and go, "Yo, back up. You know who the boss is, bro. Calm down." And I feel like, you know, that to a degree has put us in a perspective where you can't G-check anybody. All you can do is shout at people. We live in this world where shouting is the norm, but shouting doesn't get you anything. Like you said, it gets you nothing. You're just getting angry for no reason, getting heated, and then what you gonna do?
Apart from
It's actually a sign of weakness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you get to a point where, and I've spoken with this even with you about the kids. You know, you get to a point where you have to just have from the very offset a very strong character and have the fear of God in your kids from very early, that they know this guy is the authority and we should just listen to the authority. Because if they grow up feeling like there is no authority, or, hey, if dad even looked at me and said the wrong thing, I can call that number and get him and get out of here. It's like that, you know what I mean? That mindset, that easy
have
way
to,
out,
you have
that
to have
mentality.
that at home. You have to have that at home, and I think that's so important. And to put that in a larger perspective, I've always said a mixed society can never be governed by a single government, because there's so many different ideologies, there's so many different understanding of what's right and wrong. Now, there's universal law in knowing what's right and wrong at a human level. Like, you don't murder somebody, you don't harm anybody, you don't abuse anybody, and you treat the earth, the world, nature, everything with respect. A lot of those things have gone out the window. Bro.
I completely
100%.
agree with you. I talked about this the other day to someone about how in the government you need to have all parties involved in the decision-making process. So really what we should do is, rather than elect a leader, there should be groups of all
representatives,
parties, and there needs to be, which won't happen. It's wild that we elect an entire party of the same thinking people to run the entire country. Instead of having, there should be an open dialogue table of a group of different thought processes, as you said, that will discuss topics together and come with an informed decision, and they have to listen to each other and be open to each other's. The same way we would be if we're sat here talking. I could be in the middle of a topic, again, influencers. You guys can come back with well, I disagree because of this. And if the point's there, we accept it. We listen to each other and go, you know what, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Or, for example, when Neus said what he said earlier in the episode, and you've completely blown my mind. It completely changes that could have potentially, that regressive moment for you where you went on a deep one when he said it, is you, to me, this is how I look at it, is you acknowledging a shift in your thought process of that topic.
100%.
That you thought of it one way, and just that line made you go, oh,
yeah.
Now I see it in a completely different light.
Deeper than that, bro. It was deeper than
that. And I know,
100%.
and it's a regressive thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is we have an acceptance now. And this is just us. There's a lot of people out there who are like this, but there's a lot of people who aren't. But we are fortunate enough to put our ego aside and listen to people. And the problem right now with society is people don't like, or people fear intelligence in a way.
They fear, no. You are 100% right, but it's not necessarily intelligence.
Yeah, I'm wording it the wrong way. I know this, but
it's real opinions.
Real opinions, thank you. So someone who can sit down to you
People
and
hate truth.
Remember what we said in the last episode? Belief and conviction when you say something can be so powerful. If someone with belief and conviction very calmly sat down in front of you and told you all your flaws, factually, that you knew they're right in everything they say, you're one of two people. You either regress, you take it on board, and you really have like an emotional inward moment where you really hear that out and you're like, wow, that is what I'm projecting to the world then. And I need to switch that up, and I need to make a change. Or you rage out. How dare you talk to me like that?
But all you're doing is
go to all of their friends. You never guess what X told me last week. How dare they? And that's the thing. Like, we can escape into social media, into our influencers. Show us, no, I am right in the way I'm thinking because X is doing it and they've got 100,000 followers, and Y is doing it and they have 300,000 followers. So I must be thinking the right way, right? And this is where there is that challenge.
It's such a weird thing because as humans, we look. It's such a weird thing, man. We've walked away from, something you said. We've walked away from the traditional influences, your guiding North Star, so to speak. And now we just have a bunch of stars that, oh, there's a bright one. Oh, no. Oh, there's a bright one. You're just following whatever is the trend, whatever is the new thing, whatever is acceptable, whatever you're happy to accept. And this is not for everybody, don't get me wrong. But, there's a lot that you guys were saying, and it was killing me because the camera people, anybody watching is going to know I had no clue what you guys were talking about. I promise you they will, because I looked lost. I knew I looked lost. I was thinking about how I looked at that moment. Like, I don't know what none of these guys are talking. Karens. I have an understanding of
'Cause
what
you're
you were
away
talking
from it.
about.
Yeah.
But I don't know that term. When you mentioned it, when you said what you said, I can imagine what that means just by hearing you guys talk about it. But I don't mess with social media where that so there's a lot that just goes over my head. And
Just a quick pause on that. Can we call the audience camera people from now on?
Camera
Carry on,
people.
sorry.
Camera people.
yeah. I mean,
Camera people. Make sure you subscribe. Yeah.
I mean, bruh. I mean, if y'all want to do it that way, we live in a world. We live in a world full of camera people. Everybody
do.
got their cameras out, looking for the next
camera
thing to
people.
show somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the thing. This is where I feel like you are right. You know, traditional values or traditional or an opinion of traditional values, because you know everybody's traditional values are different. But an opinion of traditional values of what a traditional home should be like, it only exists for certain cultures these days. It doesn't exist for a lot of the westernized cultures, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, because there are still, you know, and we've said this, there are still people that hold on to their values and will not, or choose not to deviate from their values and their cultures and their upbringings. But generally, on a whole, in the West, I feel like, yeah, that is the case. That is the whole thing about the West, is you come here and you end up in a melting pot, and the only way to keep your traditions is to, not in my opinion, stay within your circle, but to own your tradition. I think a lot of us come here and maybe get lost in the source, or it's easy to get lost in the source. I don't have to uphold, like I said, this is the thing. We live in a world where, what I was actually going to say is, have you ever had a phone call from somebody you know? Like randomly, like a very good friend of yours maybe that you haven't spoken to in a long time, or maybe not even a very good friend of yours, maybe just somebody you casually know that, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? Oh man, I just thought I'd call you, catch up with you, hope everything's good. What you up to these days? And it starts to sound like an interview, almost starts to sound like they're gauging how your life is going to gauge how their life is going. It's almost I need a North Star. I need to understand if what I'm doing right now is the right thing. And don't get me wrong, with a real friend, you won't get that. A real friend would actually sit down with you and go, this is what's going on in my life. I need to figure something out. You know, kind of like we said, you know, yesterday pretty much, is, you know, a real person would come down and sit with you and tell you what the actual situation is and go through it. And without even asking, you would probably literally give them answers to everything they're looking for. You know what I mean? Whereas these guys, they're not looking for the answer. They don't want your help. They just want to know that they're on the right track.
Yeah.
It's more of using you as a he's 35, he's my age, he's whatever. He got a house, he doing this, he got a job, his car's this. Okay, I'm socially I'm where I need to be. And this is the thing about social media. This is the thing about influencers. We've been taught that we need to be seen to be doing what everyone else is doing, or to be seen doing what the influencers tell us are good or bad or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be fashion, whether it be music, whether it be whatever, you start to follow these trends. And that's why I got off social media, because I did notice this from Facebook days. I hated Facebook. I got off Facebook. Sorry to anybody who likes Facebook.
My brother actually said Facebook. He gave me a really good analogy of Facebook. He was like, the reason I got off of it is because you go from knowing a person face to face to knowing what's actually going on in their brain.
Yeah.
That's what Facebook
I remember
was.
you talking about
Yeah,
that.
the status updates and all that is what was going on in your brain. And
no one should be able to live in somebody else's head
yeah,
for too long.
And we talked about this privately. Like, I will regularly go into my memories on Facebook and delete posts that I put when I was younger, and keep some. But there are times where I look at it and I go, oh, wow, I was miserable at that point in my life. Like, I can literally watch my mental health. And Facebook, to me, I don't really use it anymore to post on. I don't really post on that anymore. I use Instagram. But Facebook is a prime place where you can gauge someone's mental health.
So people should treat it like therapy, don't they?
Absolutely.
And when they don't get, because you're not always going to get the reaction that you are looking for or you need. Sometimes it can backfire on you. Sometimes you can just be ignored. You know, plenty of people post stuff and they get no engagement.
Yeah, like,
at all.
you know
and
what
that
I
must
mean?
be so dismissive.
And they still do it. They'll
Yeah,
do it every day.
'cause
And
they're
fair play to
thinking,
them. But
hold on, I know people are seeing this. Why is nobody? And the thing is, like, I
But that's sad in itself.
Yeah.
It is and it isn't. You know why it isn't? Because this is the way that people meet and communicate now. And for so many people, that's Facebook. You know, I know so many people in you know, in my circles that will post pictures and post their holidays and post what they're eating and posting. We've all seen this stuff, right? But for them, that's how they keep in touch with their friends and loved ones. They may only have 50 people that they have on their friends list, but that's diehard people that they know and they engage with, and they probably see at events and things like that. And they're actually,
yeah, but I don't knock that though, because at the end of the day, that's why I have social media. I have social media merely because I have a lot of family overseas, and they ain't gonna see my kids or see what we up to all the time. So it's a good way of just going, hey,
No, you use it the right way.
guess what? Bop, bop, bop.
On Instagram,
Kids are older now, 1 year older.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this cake and this kid and all of this, like whatever, you know. Or look, we did go on a holiday. So you know, I don't think those are the things that, you know. It is what it is. At the end of the day, you showing, you know, the world your business is up to you, innit? At the end of the day, if you've got Facebook and you've got 50 friends that are just your friends, then in my opinion, are you using it the wrong way? Probably not. But, you know, I came from the era of when Facebook started and you added everybody you ever knew in life.
I know,
yeah.
5,000 friend limit.
And it got crazy.
That's
That's why I got off, because like you said, you see people's mind states and you see all this. And for me, the thing with it is this, you know, genuinely, I would hope that no one here would, or even people in my general life would know that I'm not a negative person. I hate negativity. It's almost something that bothers me. You know what I mean? So to be surrounded by it, to be woken up by it, that bothers me, man. It was never, that's what got me off of social media, because I want to see your successes. I want to see your holiday pictures. I want to see all of these nice things. And I'm not saying bad things don't happen to you. I'm not saying that you can't share that. But I don't feel like that is the platform you do share those type of things. And
I look at it different, News, right? So my thing is, like, I feel like I've got a bit of a hero complex, right? Where when people post troubling things, I'll just DM them. You good?
Yeah, but that's fine. That's a
Do you see what
good
I'm
thing to
saying?
do.
Like,
No, but that's a good thing to do. Do you remember what I said on Facebook? As I said
but
on
that's you,
Facebook,
but that's you being,
you can loudly, if you're socially intelligent enough, which I feel us three are pretty socially intelligent in terms of being able to read the body language of someone and the thought process, and even if we've just met them, and very quickly start to determine what type of individual they are emotionally.
Yeah.
If you're that type of individual, then you can look at someone's social media page and know exactly what type of thought process 100%. They go through, or where they were at in their mentality at that time, and absolutely reach out and ask them. But
COVID was an amazing example of that.
But there's nothing wrong but there's nothing wrong with that. And you're being, like I said, a real person, in the sense that you're still now trying to take it away from the wider aspect and make it more personal. What's going on in your life? You know what I mean? I saw what you did out there, but I actually want to know what's good with you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, because I know you.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So that's the beautiful thing about those, and that's why I said, you know, when you've now, you know, got an Instagram page, and you know the only people on your Instagram page are the people you actually know and can touch and see and feel. You know what I mean? I know these people. This is the people that, you know, and that's why I said I'm on there to watch your successes. I want to see, oh man, I got a promotion today. Awesome. That's my guy.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's my guy.
So that's how I use Instagram now.
That's my guy.
So
Oh my God. Congrats.
I started Facebook when Facebook was early doors. And funny enough, I never set up my page. Someone set up my page for me because they were so upset that I still hadn't joined Facebook and everyone else was on it when it was the buzz thing. I'm genuinely serious. One of my close friends at university set up my Facebook page. It was like, I'm setting you up a page because you need to have one because I want to add you and us all to be connected. Cool.
The early days were the better days on Facebook. Man.
Absolutely. And then, you know, when you're poking people and stuff like that. So on Instagram, I literally only started Instagram like a couple of years ago. Literally only a couple of years ago. I think
For
it was,
real?
just before lockdown.
Yeah.
Just before lockdown. And do you know why? Because I had a whole shift in my life at that point to better myself. And I was in a much happier place. And I realized from just watching Facebook, I started learning about social media and the way the people who were getting loads of traction and engagement, not that I was looking for it, but the people who were getting engagement were the people who were posting elevation, growth, development, success. You know, they were showing how they had come from a certain place to now be at a certain place.
I love
Or
that stuff, man.
that's what I'm there for. I'm there to celebrate your growth. I don't care. Look, I don't care if I haven't spoken to you in 15 years. If I see you post like a really positive growth in your life, I'm following and I'm liking it. So for me, I want to see that, and I want to see that, and I want to see. I don't want to see your face. I want to see what you're looking at. I don't want to see your face over and over and over and over. What does that tell you? Whenever you come across someone's page and it's just their face over and over again, what do you think?
The best thing they're looking at is
I'm one of those
themselves.
people.
But if it's just selfies, just constant selfies.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm not talking about selfies in different places, with family or whatever.
Just
I'm
pictures
talking
of
just,
them.
it's a picture in your bedroom. The girl, you know, we all know those females and even males now who are just constantly taking pictures in their own house. That's all we ever see. Is them flexing either at the gym or dressed up in their dress at 1 PM in their bedroom, taking a photo in the mirror to share with the world. Do you know what that tells me is you don't have self-confidence.
Yeah.
You need the acceptance. The moment, I'm sorry to say.
You know what? You're 100% right, because I went through that phase.
The moment you see that, you go, for me, when I see that on Facebook, I go, you're going through a self-confidence issue right now. You're not feeling good about yourself, and you want acceptance from other people to make you feel good.
Instant, you said it earlier, instant gratification.
That gratification.
There's no better dopamine feeling on social media than when you post something and pap, you get all these notifications. It's like people are listening to me, people hearing me, they know I exist, and they're liking what I'm putting out there.
Absolutely.
It's that dopamine, isn't it? It's that feeling of, it's that gratification. And I went through that phase. I went through that phase 100%, where I was in a really dark place, and I created this, not knowingly, but I just created this persona online that I was really happy and I was good, and you know, look at all of this going on in my life and blah 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 blah. But you know, when I go back to, you know, there's this this ancient Arab idea of the evil eye.
Yep.
Yeah, we've all heard
Goes
about
through
this,
multi-cultures.
right? And they say that if you boast about your blessings,
Or the eyes of jealousy.
yeah,
We have that in Iran.
and it's not
Iran,
yeah,
where
it's
the
not
eyes of
necessarily
jealousy
just
always-
jealousy as well. That's what a lot of people think that the evil eye is, but it's also when somebody looks at you and is in awe of you.
Envy, jealousy, all of that.
Oh, I wish I had that.
I wish I had that.
Oh, that's
And-
amazing. I
yeah.
wish.
They say that during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was one of the companions of the Prophet was a really, you know, really good looking man, and he always dressed well, always looked well, whatever. And somebody looked at him from a distance, and this is a documented story, right? Somebody looked at him from a distance and said something about he looks amazing or something like that. And in that instant, in that moment, he dropped to the floor and passed away, right? And the lesson from that was not necessarily that it was the evil eye, but the lesson from that is that's the effect that the evil eye can have. Like, you can lose everything like that.
In a minute.
I've seen so many people on social media posting their best life, posting that they've just got a new car or a new house or new this or new that. 6 months later, gone.
And the funny thing is,
when you lot were saying that earlier, it made me feel like really, like, because I just couldn't do that now. I just could not post my
Exactly.
successes. Like, I just couldn't do it.
No.
But
But when I say that, look, I don't say that to because
There's no judgment there, by the way.
No.
Yeah,
Bro,
it's my own
absolutely,
belief, right?
absolutely.
Bro, but when I'm saying what I'm saying, because don't get me wrong, people gonna go on my page and go, he ain't posted nothing on his page, so I'm full of it. However, but what I mean is, I don't want to. I'm not out here trying to, like, look. We can catch up, and Ash will tell me, yo, man, today was a horrible day. This happened, blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's see whether you were looking at it the wrong way. Let's see whether
And that
it
happens
was a
many
bad day.
times, by the way. With,
You know what I
with
mean?
Neus. Like,
You know
I
what I
will.
mean?
That's why we're close. That's one thing that got us close. Like, really bonded with him as like a brother. Is that I'd come to him with an issue during the day, or I'd come to him at the end of the day, be stressing. He'd be like, "What's wrong?" And I'd tell him what it was, and he would just look at it from that outside perspective and go, "Okay." And
What
he would
about
either,
this? What about that?
and he'd show you.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
angers
that
me
was-
about him sometimes, you know
What
that?
about this? What
Because
about that?
he just gets it.
Nah, it's not. It's not that I.
it's
You know
not-
what, bruh? It took a while to be like this, you know, and this is something we've said. Analyze. You know this word. I've said it too many times.
Analyze is, we should call this team Analyze.
But this is it. I go.
We've used that word a lot.
I go back to the whole.
And he
thing.
does that very
That's
well.
what I do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just-
It's
I
based
just
on
look at
life
things.
experience. Like, someone can live 20 years on this planet, someone can live 40 years on this planet, but the 20-year-old could have lived more and experienced more to be more knowledgeable in the things they're saying or the way they look at certain things. And that's the key thing, is that I'm a firm believer that we are our own biggest influencers. I can influence myself to change something more powerfully than anyone else can. No one can force me. No one can grab my body and go, you're doing this now. Yeah. You influence yourself to make a change or do something. You are your own biggest influencer. Yeah. You can be influenced by other people. But again, we go back to what we said. So it's information. Even an influencer is just information. And when you look at, like, one of my biggest pet peeve are these pretty people influencers. I'll be honest with you, and I'm sorry. Like, if you are one, congratulations. Like, you've got a following, great. But for me, when I see like these guys or girls who it's literally their page is just a pretty person photoing themselves again and again and again and again and again and getting thousands of likes, I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what are you gaining from this? And then before you know
what are we doing here?
Their social media page starts kind of looking like that, because they think, maybe if I post pictures like this and and why aren't I getting likes from this? You mentioned earlier instant gratification. But what happens when it's the opposite end of the spectrum? What if you are that person who you keep posting stuff and people just aren't engaging and giving you that gratification?
It happens.
And that's going back to something that I used to tell quite a lot of young people, is like, when I'm speaking to them, and if they're ever talking about social media and the power of it, it's like, I always say there's 3 things to steer clear from if you're going through an emotional or a difficult mental time, like with yourself. Emotionally, mentally, if you're going through a rut, there's 3 things to avoid: drugs, alcohol, social media. Do not go on social media when you're in that mindset, because it could be the most dangerous thing and the most influenced thing to you at the wrong time. You need to find people that you trust, that you care about, that you trust their opinion.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what it goes back to. And this is why I said, if I'm talking about, like I said, I'll happily post a picture of my successes, because the people on my page, they my people. There's probably only 30, 40 of them. They ain't more than that. You know what I mean? So don't get me wrong. Yeah, you're right. Not everybody's going to like your success. Not everybody's going to be happy for you. And, and sometimes it's not in the best interest to always put your situation out there. Sometimes it's nice to be humble about things. Yeah, I got a promotion, but I'm not out here showing you stunting with bottles of champagne or throwing money in the air. We rich. Like, it's not that deep. But, what I mean by showing your successes, your success could be your kid's first day at school, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to say that about your pages.
It can be anything to do with, but it's your success. Like, I want to be part of your positivity. I don't want to be part of your negativity.
I want to
take away from your negativity.
It's really difficult for me to look at it like that, because I have been indoctrinated throughout my life. And this is not to say I haven't done it, but, my religion tells me to not do that.
No, and I get that.
Do you see what I'm saying? No, look, I understand the concept. I get what you're saying, and it just makes me feel like
But you don't have to do that. Yours might be God.
But then guess what? And that's what you're really about to say. What I'm probably about to, what I was gonna say is, but that's your culture. That's your upbringing. That's the way you are programmed to do things. Same way, the way I'm programmed. There are some people that put their whole life on social media.
Yeah, facts.
You know what I mean? I'm not programmed.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
I'm not programmed to do it. I'm not programmed to do that. But at the end of the day, if I'm gonna go, you know what, man, my kid got all A's in their exam. I want their uncles to know. I want everybody to know, so that they can give my kid that gratification of, man, well done, son, man. You did an amazing thing. It teaches my kid that it's nice to be appreciated for doing good things. Do you see what I mean? So at the end of the day, I look at things in different ways. Same way you'll look at things in your different ways, but it's what you get out of it. And I think that's the biggest thing about social media, is a lot of people are on there getting the wrong things out of it. Yeah. A lot of people are on there getting influenced by the wrong people, by the wrong things.
And if you follow these desires that sit underneath your skin, right? These things that are not as prominent, maybe people don't know that side about you. If you start to follow those desires online, and they don't necessarily have to be sexual or illegal or anything that's negative, right? It could be something positive. But if you start to follow these things, then that's the information that you're just constantly getting. And there's something that I was going to say earlier when one of you were making a point that, You know, there was a time within the last 1,000 years, right, where, you know, like if, for example, if we heard right now Jay-Z's on the other end of town, right, and it was just everybody on social media is talking about it, Jay-Z's on the other side of town, how long do you think it would take for there to be a crowd there?
Not that long at all.
Half hour,
Minutes.
Not even that long.
minutes,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, let's just be generous and say in an hour there will be a massive crowd around him.
Oh, yeah.
And then as he walks through the town and gets to the other side, I mean, I don't know why he's walking through the town, but in this analogy, he is, right? He's walking through the town. As he gets to the other side, he is going to be surrounded by thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
Mobbed. He will need security. There will need to be police presence. It will just be absolutely
get crazy, yeah.
right? And as much as I love Jay-Z, right? He's a music idol, right? I love him, but he doesn't really bring anything to have that level of influence, anything real of substance other than his music, right? And his entrepreneurship, right? His idea of how to grow as an individual and as a business, right? But there was a time within the last 1,000 years that scholars, masters of science, people who had mastered 20, 30 sciences, right? And, you know, this was a big thing in Konya and Baghdad, and, you know, you look at the Greek Empire, you look at the Persian Empire, these places had, and they just absolutely nourished these scholars, right? They were the celebrities of the time.
Yeah.
You still had poets.
All right.
You still had people who are good with words. Just
We've
very
had this
quickly, yeah?
conversation, and
We have.
I'm gonna give
But
you
it's said that when scholars used to enter a town, by the time they would get to the other side of the town, they would be mobbed by people. They weren't running towards the poets or the businessmen or this or that or whatever. It was knowledge. That was the thing to have. And it's, you know, you fast forward to today, you know, and yeah.
I was about to say, if I want knowledge, I've got...
This is your knowledge, B. This is literally what I said about your dad's situation.
Yeah.
About the whole, you know, people not being able to now be influenced because they have other things that can influence them.
Yeah.
You're no longer my biggest influence because you're not the absolute knowledge anymore. You know,
It
when you're
deflates
showing
me when I think about that stuff.
When you're showing me something I've never seen, I've never done before. When you're the forefront leader of something, that scholar, we're all gonna look at your boy, what's his name? Tesla guy.
Elon Musk.
Everybody love that guy. I mean, everybody hate him too, but everybody loves this guy. Why?
He's a genius, bro.
But why? Exactly. Why? Because you know he got knowledge that not a lot of people
he's
have.
a special breed, man. He's very, very
so
special.
people will go to this guy because of that. I want to know how is this possible? How is this? How do you know this? I need to learn from you how to be smarter. I need to figure out how to take what you know and develop it more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by having that, you know what I mean? So we live in a world where you don't need to be that smart anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
they've got apps that'll write you a nice dissertation.
Yeah.
They got things that will do stuff for you. They got an app you pointed at any math question and it just do. Yep, that's the answer, buddy. You don't even need to do the math.
Just ask Alexa.
I remember when you had to, remember what pi was. You had to remember the circumference, height versus width times. Like, bro, all the formula. If you didn't know the formula, you just forget maths. You were not doing maths. Nowadays, man, I don't see that.
If you look at these educational studies, it actually shows that, you know, most children are exposed to social media from like the age of 9 or 10, right? Parents will give them a phone and let them download everything. There's a lot of parents who will up the age of their child on that phone. You know, when you put in your own personal detail, they'll make them 16 or 13 or whatever.
Yeah, because they want them to be able to download and have access to whatever.
And it's proven. Children who are exposed to social media that early on don't have the same attention span, don't have the same ability to absorb knowledge. So when it comes to their GCSEs, we're actually seeing something that's really unprecedented. You know, you're hearing about all these facts about certain countries being the highest, having the highest success rate amongst their youth in terms of exams and things like that. You know, you look at the West, man, and even back home where I'm from in Pakistan, it's a big problem now. People cannot retain knowledge. Mm-hmm. They just don't. They don't have the mechanism within themselves to retain knowledge. When they're in school, they're distracted.
Because you don't have to anymore.
You don't.
That's
You're
the
right.
point. Like you said, the mind, the thing you said about the brain, the attention span. That is literally what it is. We don't. You had to remember before. Remember, dude. I remember when there was only one. Like we would be here. Like, and I'm gonna go back. So, do you remember Source magazines?
Yeah, bro.
How much were they? Do you remember?
No.
You know, they were like £4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and £4 for a magazine at that point was like, man, robbery. It was like, what? £4. So you'd buy one and we'd all read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pass it around.
Whatever. But in the time, you know, or even if we were talking about a textbook, you might only have one book amongst 3 or 4 people. So you, in the time that you have that book, you're taking the information because I'm not going to have it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as I said, when you have something that is
Constantly.
literally right here, you know, it's kind of like the difference between, and this is my thing. Technology is a crazy thing because it is our development, but it's also our decline. You know, it's such a weird thing because it's not balanced properly, in my opinion. The way we use technology isn't balanced properly, but it's such a weird thing because, you know, you have one side of things, which is here. It's here to basically give us, for instance, calculators. Before there were calculators, people knew maths. You could ask a guy, what's 20 times 13? And they'd probably give you the answer like that because you were programmed to have to know stuff like that. But the minute there became calculators, it's easier. I don't need to know stuff like that. I can just, here's the answer. You know what I mean? So it goes from hiring, you know, funny enough, and listen to this, it goes from hiring mathematicians to just hiring anyone that can use a calculator. Your level of what you're doing has now dropped.
Yeah.
Because the people who you could have hired, who would pay attention to the details, who would know how to correct themselves and go back and go through everything because they've had to learn those processes, they're not here. The people you do have here just know how to use this thing. If this thing shuts down, that person's useless.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
100%, man.
And
100%.
as we've gone along, that's what we've done. We've created more of these things that make being smart obsolete.
Yeah.
Being an influencer in certain things obsolete because I don't need you anymore. I've got.
I think you started with it. You become almost a jack of all trades. I don't know if you've ever met in an office environment that one person who's really good at quizzes, right?
Yeah, we got one of those. We got one of those.
I had one of them in my office, right? And he was incredible.
He does quizzes every lunch.
Yeah, this guy used to do every 3-4 days in a week. He'd be at the pub quiz, and he'd be all of that, right? And he had good general knowledge, jack of all trades,
I'm
master
known
of
for
none.
it in our family.
Yeah.
Of just being able to answer like the most random questions.
Yeah. And yeah, man. That's what it breeds. I'm just conscious of time, gents, right? So what I wanted to do was just, as I normally do at the end of each episode, is just get a brief statement from each of you, right? So what do you think is the most important influence that somebody coming up, late teens, early 20s, can get in their life? What do you think is the most important thing in this day and age?
Truth.
But who from? What that influence? Let's say it's a person.
Or just some advice we can give them about influencers and influences.
Yeah.
Truth. I will say that. The reason why is because I don't know everybody and I don't know who's going to be a direct influence or influencer. However, what you'd want to do in life is always go for somebody that will give you truth. So generally speaking, a lot of us were raised by our parents and we see them as our influences. Now, you know, I'm not saying my mama or my daddy never told a lie in their life, but I don't assume they told me any because a lot of the things they told me seem to be very true and accurate, and I learned the hard way. So you want somebody with truth, somebody that's going to give you exactly what you need to hear. Yeah, not somebody that's going to shout at you or you know, make you feel some type of way. You want someone who's going to give you clear-headed truth. So whatever you're watching, whatever you're into, whatever is influencing you, always try and make sure that it is, you know, true to what you're trying to be. You know, if you start going down a road that you feel is not down, you know, like you said, with these reels and things like that, you can go down a spiral in no time, you know, but it's up to you as a person to understand what you're looking at and to adjust what you look at, you know, rather than get lost in the, you know, the source, so to speak. So anything that is of value and truth, in my opinion, is what you need to be looking for.
Amazing. Totally agree with that, by the way.
Yeah, well said. For me, I would say when you look at who you think are your influences or your influencers, gauge on how much actual direct engagement you have with that influencer. Is that influencer someone you actually engage with? Or is it someone just on social media that you follow, or someone on YouTube that you follow and watch all their videos? Like, how much direct engagement do you have with the people you are influenced by? That's firstly. Secondly, take everything as information when you're dealing with things online. And I think the final thing for me is when it comes to my experience with the people I'm influenced by and my influencers is a good influencer will not only tell you when life is great, a good influencer will share with you the challenges and will also reality check you when you're offline or you're not doing right, or, you know, so be humble and understand if someone is giving you the time to honestly and calmly tell you where you could be doing better in life, and you can factually say that's true what they're saying, be humble and take it as information. Accept it, take it
as
on
a
board,
gift, yeah,
because that person is really trying to influence and support you in growing. And finally, when you look at your influencers, and this is something I was going to bring up in the episode, but I'll say it now, is really gauge to yourself, do you actually respect them?
What they stand for and that,
Because when we were younger, the reason we had our influences or our influencers is we respected them. We had respect for them. My mum was a huge influence. My dad was a huge influence on two spectrums of my life. And I respected them so much. And then there was the wider elders and the wider family and friends and this and that. And the people I listened to the most and allowed to influence me were the people I respected.
Yeah.
I had respect, real, honest respect for them. And it's something I try and pass on if I'm trying to influence younger people now to look at what they're doing or to look at things in another ways.
That's a real word.
I will only do that if I see that they have some respect, because I'll respect them regardless. And I used to say this to Neus when we used to work together. When I used to be a manager and used to run a department, I wasn't forceful, fist ironing, all of this. What I used to say to him is, all I want to do is gain the respect of the floor. I want to show that you can do very minimal as a leader, but just being in the room, your presence being there makes a huge difference in the operation, because everyone respects you. The moment you walk out the room, there's fun and games, all right, but the moment you walk in, like your favourite teachers at school, they'd leave the room, you'd all have fun and rah. But the moment that teacher walked in, the ones you respected, the whole room went quiet and would be like, sir or madam, sir or missus walked into the room.
Man, that's a very good word, man. Respect.
So look at your influencers and really think, okay, I'm influenced by them, but do I respect them? That's my advice.
Amazing. And mine is of a similar vein, I would say, is I always try to I don't like to preach religion because I'm in no position to do so, but the things that I've learned through my religion I like to share, right? So there's this one verse which from the Quran which says this world is the mere enjoyment of deception and play, right? And that's always rung true with me. I'm not a student of the Quran. I don't claim to know it all inside out or understand it, but that statement always stood true with me. And when I look at social media today and I look at the amount of influencers that the youngsters are following and sharing and imitating, a lot of it is, you look at these self-made millionaires. They're getting hotel rooms and taking pictures on balconies and claiming that's their apartment. They're hiring cars and taking pictures next to their Bugattis, claiming that's theirs, and they're selling you what was the old pyramid scheme, right? Do this and this is what's going to happen. And I think there's a much more sophisticated way to sell that now. You think you're buying into somebody who you want to be like, but actually you're buying into their idea of how to make money and how to live life. And it's a very destructive way to live. So, I do believe a lot of social media is the enjoyment of deception and play, right?
100%.
So in a very similar vein, I would say seek influencers who you can actually, you can actually stand next to, rub shoulders with, and if people from your community, your friends, your work, or whatever. We touched on mentors yesterday. We touched on coaches yesterday. We, in previous podcasts, we spoke about fathers and communities and how these things are important. Post-COVID, I think we forget how many people have just got used to being stuck at home. And, I realize it. Sometimes I'll be working home 3-4 days and I'll realize I haven't actually left the yard. Like I might have quickly popped to the shops or the weekly
But
shopping. I haven't actually left to
done
do
anything,
something.
yeah.
Like I haven't, because work has been all consuming, and then I'm editing and I'm doing this and that. And you know, the more you get out in the world, you know, don't stop doing that. Force yourself to get back into the habit of going out and meeting people and networking and engaging, and find your influences based on respect, based on truth, based on trust. And I think you'll have a much more fulfilling life.
100%.
I really do, man. So that's my final
like
words.
like
Brothers, as ever, appreciate
Pleasure.
you, man. I appreciate you. Mad love. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and taking the time to do that, man. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. At team_Akhi, should I say. Go follow that, guys. Let us know your thoughts, man.
Subscribe, like, click everything. You know what it is.
And as
Peace and
always,
love.
comment, share, let us know what your thoughts are on this as well.
100%, man. Easy.
Peace.